inviting me along today. Like Kane, I'll sort of echo the sentiment that it's nice to be invited along to something without necessarily having to be asked to fund the whole event. As some of you would know, and some of you might not know, my name's Lee, I'm from Intuit. Intuit's a Tassie-owned company. We're wholly privately owned by two individuals in Hobart, Dane Bignell and James Crichton. Been about since 1998, so a little while. Screwed together pretty well. We turn over about $18 million a year, and we've been growing about 5% per annum. Got 75 staff, which when you compare that to a lot of the IT companies around the States, a lot of people. About 47 in Hobart, 15 in Launceston, and you can see the numbers there. One of the interesting things is we've got a US office. And that's so as though we can actually do follow the sun help desk services. We're a profitable company. And you might say, well, why have I got that in there? Well, not a lot of IT companies can actually say that they're actually profitable. Just to recap, we're on island, we've got lots of experience, and we're used to the Tassie marketplace. We have a lot of suppliers that we work with. There's a list of them there, I'm not going to go through them all. One of the big changes for one of them is the Dell relationship, as Hal alluded to. At the start of August this year, Dell stopped servicing Tasmania from a direct point of view. So if anybody calls Dell and calls the Dell Direct team on their 1300 or 1800 number or whatever along those lines, and when they ask you your address details and you give them a 7XXX area code, they'll actually funnel it to Intuit in Tasmania. And that's happened with a lot of their incumbent clients that they've been dealing with from a direct point of view, as well as from ringing clients and those sorts of things as well. They've done that as a test case. They've done that because Michael Dell, who is now the whole and sole owner again of Dell as a private company again, is committed to the channel globally. Tassie, like most people find, is a good spot to test that theory. So what he's done is he's taken the direct relationship that Dell had with the couple of people that they had coming down here on a regular basis and the one person that was stationed here regularly, who never really got out of Hobart, and they've pulled those people out, let them concentrate on Victoria. The one person that was stationed here is now part of the Intuit team, and we actually service the whole of Tasmania on their behalf. Does two things. It means that I've got a really big pool of very smart people to be able to call on now for anything that's out of the ordinary or that we can't cope with, because training for staff, especially when you've got 75 of them, can be fun and games at times. But it also means that we've got some great relationships there that we can leverage off and some really good skill sets there that we can pull from. We get the odd award every now and then. The last one being a finalist in the Telstra Medium Business Awards. And, you know, as you can see, it's across a variety of topics. I suppose up until probably 3 years ago, if the word Intuit was mentioned, you probably thought of dropshipping boxes or SMB or didn't even know of the name. We now do a lot of work with some really big corporate clients. We supply all of the networking into health, and we administer a lot of that networking on behalf of health, along with a number of other really large government clients. So we've really sort of grown from that small SMB, 5 to 10 organisation servicing type company, through to a company that's servicing some of the largest clients and some of the largest businesses within Tasmania. What differentiates us? I suppose the biggest thing is that we're willing to listen and we're willing to work with you guys. We're willing to think outside of the box, which might make Kane a bit happier about salespeople. We've got our own data centre in Hobart. It's got about 5 racks in it, so it's not huge. We also have a data centre in Derwent Park at the Tas Networks data centre, which is the most highly rated data centre in the state. They're connected with dark fibre, so they replicate. We've got a 10 gig link there. It also means that for any of you guys that are having issues around networking or WAN connections and those sorts of things, and are willing to maybe have a talk to the guys at Tas Networks, there might be some options there, especially in the Hobart and the southern regions, to get some really good bandwidth through to places like the Pipeworks data centre, where you can get a very large connection to your ARNet connections. We're vendor agnostic. Some people might say that we're a bit of a whore from that point of view. You know, we're willing to work with most of the big vendors and you know, work with the products that the clients are used to working with. Obviously, we have some relationships with people like Dell, which means that I get better pricing points and I get some really good solution sets from those guys, and that can make advantages for the client. So I guess in most cases I'll probably leave with a Dell solution unless a Dell solution isn't suitable, and that's mainly because it gets me the best pricing to pass on to you guys, the clients. We do birth to death IT support, and what I mean by that is that we actually do third-party warranty work for a lot of companies, and a lot of companies that you might not necessarily expect that we do the warranty support for. So for example, I know that a lot of you have got IBM servers, I know that a lot of you have got HP servers. If you're in the north of the state, that means that if you log a call, it's probably going to be one of our guys that comes and actually does that warranty work for you. If you're in the south of the state, some of those guys have actually got some engineers in place. For example, HP does have some of their own engineers in the state, but we take all the overflow work from them. That means that we get to see things even past the warranty expiry date. And because we do warranty service work for them, we're actually, in some cases, more than happy to work with things that are actually outside the warranty. We're not wedded to the cloud. There's a lot of people that talk about the cloud and its benefits and its not benefits, and you know, the pros and the cons and whether it's good or it's bad. We don't care. You know, if somebody wants to work with the cloud environment, we're more than happy to go down that path with the client. If somebody says that they want something with spinning discs and lights that they can go up and put their hand on, and so that the CEO can say, that's what I spent all my money on, we're more than happy to do that as well. Right down to the fact that if CapEx is an issue, we're more than happy to OpEx it for you and put a management scenario around it. And that's not necessarily to do anybody out of a job, it's the fact that we recognise that you guys have got other things that you've got to do, and that training's sometimes hard to actually get hold of. So if we can, you know, do the doldrum things like patching and those sorts of things for you and make your lives a bit easier to concentrate on other things, we're happy to do that. We actually run a 24/7 help desk, and we run it from Tasmania using Tasmanians. And I don't think that there's any other IT company in the state that can say that. We've just introduced a US office, and that allows us to do some follow some sun type capabilities, but it's all managed out of Hobart.
So no Tasmanians mobile.
What was that again, sorry?
No Tasmanians media.
Well, look, yeah, we've got lots of Tasmanians in there, though. We've got some Tasmanians with some very, very funny names, but and some names that I can't necessarily pronounce. But look, yeah, you're going to get answered in Hobart, or if it's at 1 o'clock in the morning, by a guy that speaks English, albeit with an American accent out of the US. But he's controlled and managed and monitored from Tasmania. That kind of leads me into the other part of what I was going to talk about. We get lots and lots and lots of really cool things thrown at us. And in some cases they're good, in some cases I go, yeah, I don't know why we'd even look at that. But every now and then one or two things get thrown up that I think, well, that's actually got some real application. And one of those products is the DR4100 from Dell. It's a DR backup, it's a backup to disk appliance, though it has a virtual option as well. The big thing that it addresses is that you guys have all got data that's growing. It's growing year on year, and it's continuing to do so. And even though your students sort of turn over as they come to the end of their school life and those sorts of things, I'm guessing in some way, shape or form you've got some requirement to keep that data for a period of time. That means the data is going to continue to grow. And the amount of, and the type of the data that you're keeping also grows and changes. But we've only got the same number of hours in a day. And then you go to the model that Stuart was talking about earlier, whereby you've got everybody working off your servers and all with the data on the servers and those sorts of things, and the ability to work from home on that data that's on the servers. And so your backup windows then shrunk again from the amount of time that you've got to back up and when you've got to back things up and what data that you've got to back up. It's an issue that everybody's facing. What Dell have done is they've acquired a number of companies over the last 5 or 6 years. I think it was about 27 or 28 the last time I heard a Dell guy do a presentation on a lot of these sorts of things. They've done that to fill out a product portfolio to actually give them an end-to-end solution from an enterprise point of view. One of the products that they've got was some software developers who had some really great tools for doing dedupe and compression and those sorts of things. And they then married that up with some of their physical appliances around their Dell servers and created a DR4100. And it follows these tenets. It wants you to be able to back up the data, which is probably one of the more valuable assets that you've got as a school, because it's not something that you want to let get out there or lose, and do it in a flexible time frame and make sure that it's a very, very secure solution for you. It tries to address the challenges that most people experience around data management and data growth and all of those sorts of things. You know, most people have got a tape drive in some way, shape or form to get something off site. If you haven't got a tape drive, 9 times out of 10 you took it off site because either one, it was unreliable, or two, you couldn't get the amount of data that you needed onto it in a time frame that was actually relevant for you to do it. Or three, it was too hard to actually test the fact that the data was on there and it actually had integrity. And if all of that came to pass, then you had to try and administer the things and swap your tapes out and that sort of stuff. It basically became a headache. What it did is it moved, this sort of a solution moves it all onto disks initially, which means that you've actually got something reliable, something that you can manage, something that's got some speed to it to actually do the data side of things. And then you can apply deduplication to it. I don't know if anybody of you have thought of deduplication or its benefits and those sorts of things, but you know, I'm guessing that 90% of the documents that you keep have got your logos on them. So if you're saving those documents tens, hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands of times, why store that logo every time? What deduplication does is it takes those things out that are common and just saves the differences. Because it knows that it's got to put a logo in there, so it can just put that in when you go to recover the data. So why save it too many times? That's just an example. The idea is to give a non-disruptive deployment of DR services. So a typical workflow, you've got your content that you created, you've got some storage, and you've got a backup that you've got to do. And what that allows you to do is to do the compression and the deduplication and those sorts of things before you actually have to put it onto a tape. Or in a scenario where you've got a WAN link or another site that's connected via an internet connection or something along those lines, it allows you to just put a second DR series device at the other location and just move deduped compressed data, which means that you're getting savings around your WAN capabilities and your bandwidth on your WAN as well. Backups are the ideal way and the ideal use for deduplication. As I said, the logos are a great example. I'm guessing that you guys could think of a whole lot of other things that you have on every document that you produce, whether it be a photo, whether it be a logo, whether it be whatever, that gets saved multiple times every time you save a document. Under this sort of a scenario, every time you do one of those saves, it doesn't save that copied or duplicated information. So the more snapshots, the more replications that you do, the more of that dedupe that gets applied. One of the things that Dell's prided itself on is that it uses industry standard technologies. And that means that the products that it produces can work with multiple different applications. So we're not locking you into a specific tool that we say you have to use to drive this particular appliance. If you want to use Veeam, go ahead and use Veeam. Just turn the deduplication off first so you can take advantage of the DR4100. If you want to use Microsoft backups, go for it. Not a problem in any way, shape or form. There's a whole list of different software solutions and those sorts of things that you can drive by using this technology. You're more than welcome to use any of those particular products. You say it sounds good. Well, it gets better. One of the things that they talk about is the fact that they can get a 20-to-1 type compression, if not better, on most particular data sets. So they've got a little example there of a before and an after with deploying a DR 4100 in a specific client environment. The beauty of it is that the more snapshots that you do, the better the compression gets. So even with a device that can handle 9 terabytes of data, from a logical point of view, so your DR, it's only got 9 terabytes of disk available in the DR4100, you can fit 100 odd terabytes of logical data onto it. It's another way to say a very, very similar thing. Basically, it's spelling it out for you. So if you've got 5 terabytes of data, the first time you do it, it's 1-to-1. You get a little bit of an advantage by deduping some of the stuff out, but there's not a whole lot. So the really important things there are the first column and the last column. 27 terabytes into 7 terabytes. Now, obviously, it changes a little bit based upon the data sets that the individuals have got, but they're not supporting a best case scenario there, they're supporting an average scenario. The value proposition in the DR4100, now here's some of the salesy stuff that Kane was talking about from the sales scumbag, I suppose, but at the end of the day, it's about reducing the total cost of ownership of your data for yourselves. It's about improving the performance and functionality of your backups and making sure that you actually have backups that work, can be called upon and can be restored if they need to be. And the best bit is all the licensing for doing it's in the box. There's no, but you need to buy this license over here to make this work. It's in the box. It's ready for you when you want to use it. More than happy to take any questions. I'm not an engineer, so please don't go all techo on me. I'm happy to talk about sort of DR4100s or other technologies. Being in the north of the state, I don't necessarily get a whole lot of pre-sales engineers to call on, so I've got to be a little bit self-sufficient. As long as you don't get too techo on me, I can normally answer most things or say I don't know. But if you've got any questions about either Intuit or technologies or whatever along those lines, I'm more than happy to talk to you either now or later. Well under 10 grand. So it's not a horrible price point to actually get in on. I think I gave some pricing to Hal relatively recently, and the upper mid-range appliance was 12 or 13 grand or something, wasn't it?
So you're getting 10 grand and you're not at 10 grand at the bottom end.
It's not a new technology. We've got some DR4100s that have just been deployed in at Scotch, and the guys at Grammar have got a couple of DR4100s in place as well. So, if you want somebody not salesy based to actually sort of say, all right, well, hey, are you getting some compression out of this and how's it looking? There are certainly some people that are using them in the room today, albeit that I think that we're administering most of it. I'm not sure what visibility you guys get to how much dedupe happens, but yeah. But they're certainly in place and they're certainly working.
They're not very pretty.
No.
And it's a bit of badging.
That literally, it's a Dell R720 server.
At the end of the day, whether it's you guys or these guys, somebody's in charge.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'm always wary of brochureware, and I tend to try and understate some of the crosses. And I flagged the guys at Dell on their last sales conference because they had some techo guys up the front. And one of the comments from them is that we used the mid-range metrics as well, Lee. We didn't give you the best case scenarios on those brochures. So if they've played it down and then I'm playing it down further, then you guys should be pretty happy when you actually put one in if you decide to go down that path.
What's the recovery time like? Do you have to get something back or restore it? So you go in that sort of...
It depends on how you implement them. So, for example, what most people do is they work with their virtual environments and they do their snapshots and those sorts of things to them. So if you look at the amount of time it takes you to recover a snapshot, then there's your recovery timeframes. It presents as a NAS. So in essence, what you can do is you can have your SAN infrastructure and your virtual servers and those sorts of things sitting there. It presents as a NAS that gets seen by Veeam and other products as a tape drive. So you tell it it's a whatever tape drive you want to tell it is, be it a HP, be it a Dell or a whatever along those lines. It presents as that tape drive, which means that when you get it to the other end, because it's just a server, you can actually attach that tape drive to the other end of it and then copy off to those tapes in whatever time frame that you want to copy it off in. Because it presents as a NAS, you put a server at the other end of it, you point it at the, your snapshots and or your virtual images, and you can actually pull them and recover from those virtual images directly. Cool, I've either put you all to sleep or there's no questions.
Sorry, can I just ask one question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, that supports students being there, all the usual suspects.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've got it running in Citrix environments, we've got it running in VMware environments, we've got it running in Hyper-V environments.
Is there a uni license for it, or is it just one?
Nope, one-off cost. You can either buy it with, they come as standard with 3-year maintenance on them. You can buy it with 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 years maintenance on it. If you bought it with 3 years maintenance and at the end of 3 years you decided you wanted to add another 2 or 3 years to it, you can do that as long as you actually contact us before the maintenance expires. You can do it afterwards, but they charge a premium for that.